Garnett, and that's it. The Boston Celtics with the huge upset. They advance to the conference finals. And LeBron James' season is over. Is his career in Cleveland over?
The answer to the question everybody wants to know. LeBron, what's your decision?
In this fall, man, it's very tough. In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
Miami Heat. That was the conclusion you woke up with this morning.
That was the conclusion I woke up with this morning. But it's going to be a lot of emotions, not understanding why. And then you're going to have the real friends that love me for who I am.
The 2003 to 2010 Cleveland Cavaliers are the prime example of how to not treat a superstar. LeBron James would perform great, but Cleveland's lack of willingness to go after a great star in their prime was apparent, and it really shows, and it's no wonder why LeBron decided to leave in the summer of 2010. Now, leading up to the 2003 NBA draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers were no stranger to losing. They reached their peak in the early 90s with 2 straight 50-win seasons. Fast forward to the 98-99 season, they would go 22-28 after the lockout-shortened year, and then it was downhill from there. Once everyone was aware of the fact LeBron would be heading to the NBA in 2003, each team got their tank on. Going into the draft, the teams with the best 3 odds at getting LeBron James were the Toronto Raptors at 15.7, and the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Denver Nuggets both were at 22.5, both finishing with 17 wins and at the bottom of each of their conferences. The lottery would end with Cleveland getting number 1, and with that selection, they would obviously draft LeBron James. LeBron would enter the NBA with extraordinarily high expectations, and his teammates would show their opposition to LeBron immediately.
We have better players than him in his position already on our team, though. His potential is probably, the sky's the limit for him, though.
Good LeBron is just going to add to what we need and, just make things a little bit easier. You can really just bring a high school player in and really just think your team going to really turn around like that. If he come, you know what I'm saying, he can just hop on our bandwagon and hopefully we can do something big.
However, he would shut up the haters with an amazing rookie debut. 25 points, 9 assists, 6 rebounds, and 4 steals, but in a loss. At the end of his rookie year, he would take home Rookie of the Year with 20 points per game, 6 assists per game, and 5 rebounds per game, along with a steal and a half. Not bad for a 19-year-old. However, the Cavaliers would miss the playoffs with only 35 wins. In other news, valuable defensive anchor and rebounder Carlos Boozer would leave the Cleveland Cavaliers to join the Utah Jazz, and as the story goes, Carlos Boozer promised to re-sign with Cleveland if he was let out of his rookie deal, which would make him an unrestricted free agent. He would use that unrestricted status to sign with the Jazz with no interference by the Cavaliers on July 30th of 2004. After Carlos Boozer left, LeBron had to step up big time, and while Zydrunas Ilgauskas hadn't quite become washed yet, LeBron was clearly the star of the team, improving all the way up to 27 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals, and the Cavaliers would once again miss the playoffs, but they were at least over 500 this time with 42 wins to just 40 losses. In the 2005 NBA offseason, the Cavaliers would produce radio silence, with their biggest signing being Larry Hughes, who would be an effective 15 points per game on average scorer before a finger injury that sidelined him until April. In the 2005-2006 NBA season, LeBron would become a 30 points per game scorer and would finish second in the MVP voting, once again vastly outscoring everybody on the roster, but this time the Cavaliers would make the playoffs in dominating fashion. They would also have a first-round matchup against the 42-40 Washington Wizards with one of the best players in the league, Gilbert Arenas. The series was extremely close and tied at 2 games apiece after Game 4. In Game 5, LeBron would drop 45 points and a close 1-point victory. However, we all know the story of Game 6. Gilbert Arenas would have 36 and LeBron would have 32. However, in the closing seconds of overtime, Arenas would go to the line and break the first free throw. But wait a minute, that's okay because he has one more. However, LeBron would tell Gilbert Arenas if he misses this, he's going home, putting the pressure on Gilbert Arenas, and he would brick the second one, ending the Wizards' season. Now off to round 2. Against the Pistons in round 2, Detroit would take a 2-0 series lead before LeBron and the Cleveland Cavaliers would come back and win 3 straight. However, Detroit would force a crucial winner-go-home Game 7, and the Pistons would prove to be too much, as they would take the series in Game 7 by 18 points. In the 2006 NBA offseason, there would be utter silence in the Cavaliers organization. Do you notice a theme quite yet? In the 2006-2007 NBA season, it would end very similarly. The Cavaliers would once again win 50 games and would have a round 1 matchup against the Washington Wizards, but this time they would dominate from beginning to end, sweeping Washington. In round 2, the Cleveland Cavaliers would go up 3-1 against the New Jersey Nets and would end up finishing them off in Game 6. In the Eastern Conference Finals, the Cavaliers would find a familiar foe, the Detroit Pistons. However, the Pistons roster was without Ben Wallace, as he was too busy being beaten by the Pistons in the previous round. The series was very tight, and after 4 games, it was tied at 2 games apiece. However, LeBron was not willing to lose, dropping 48 points in Game 5 in a 2-point victory, and in Game 6, LeBron would have a near triple-double with 20 points, 14 rebounds, and 8 assists in a 16-point domination victory. Now finally, the Cleveland Cavaliers have finally made it to an NBA Finals appearance, first time in their franchise history, and they've gotten close before, but they have not ever gotten this close. Now LeBron and the Cleveland Cavaliers are 4 games away from getting their first title in franchise history. Nothing could possibly go wrong. They got swept. However, LeBron doesn't escape without his criticism, obviously. Averaging 35% from the field is pretty rough, and to say he choked would not be invalid. But just like we have established, you cannot win a championship with just one person. Therefore, the supporting cast is just as much to blame as LeBron is. The Cleveland Cavaliers would follow being swept in the NBA Finals with one of the more uneventful off seasons of all time. However, a mid-season move on February 21st of 2008 was pretty interesting, and I figured I might as well touch on it. The Cavaliers would end up getting rid of Shannon Brown, Drew Gooden, and Larry Hughes, and they would end up receiving in this 3-team trade Ben Wallace, LeBron's dad, and an aging Wally Szczerbiak. However, LeBron would only play 75 games and would come off the bench for one of them. He would win his first scoring title, averaging 30 points a game, but the Cavaliers would only go 45-37. However, that would be good enough for the 4th seed, where they would once again play the Wizards. Gilbert Arenas would perform horribly, averaging just 10 points a game on better efficiency from 3 than from the field overall. On the other hand, LeBron would dominate the Wizards, averaging 30 points on 58% true shooting, and the Cavaliers would win in 6 games. In the second round against the Boston Celtics, it was a nail-biter from beginning to end. Every time it seemed like the Celtics would get one up on Cleveland, LeBron and the Cavs would strike back and even the series. And in a crucial Game 7, in an effort to save their season, LeBron would put up 45 points, 6 assists, and 5 rebounds. A great showing by just a 23-year-old, but the Celtics would just play better. Paul Pierce with 41 points, Kevin Garnett with 13 rebounds, and Rajon Rondo came 2 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists short of getting a triple-double in a heartbreaking loss for Cleveland. The 2008-2009 NBA season was very eventful. LeBron would win his first MVP, averaging 28 points, nearly 8 rebounds, and 7 assists, while also averaging a block and a steal per game. LeBron would also play with the second All-Star of his career, that being Mo Williams, who may have only made the All-Star team because he was the second best player on the best team in the league. Yes, I said best team. The Cavs would end the 08-09 season with 66 wins and a sweep in Detroit in the first round. They would also sweep Atlanta in the second round, but in the conference finals is where it would all fall apart. By being a very efficient scorer all series and being the first option for everything and doing it all right, the Magic would jump out to a 3-1 lead and would eventually win the series 4-2. Going into the 2009-2010 NBA season, question marks were all over the place because LeBron would be a free agent after this season, as in the 2006 offseason he would sign a 3-season extension, making him an unrestricted free agent in the summer of 2010. What would make the question marks even more bold is that LeBron's fellow 2003 draftees and Olympic teammates Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh would also be free agents in the summer of 2010. However, the biggest question mark was on the Cavs organization. They had one more chance to do something to make LeBron stay, and they would immediately trade for a 37-year-old Shaq, which was good in theory, but when it actually happened, it would prove to be a bad move. He would only play 53 games and average 12 points and 7 rebounds. After seeing this horrible decision, they would go and trade for Antoine Jamison from the Wizards in February. And while it wasn't as much of a fail as the Shaq trade, it didn't really work out. However, LeBron would end up winning the regular season MVP, leading the Cavs to a record of 61-21, averaging nearly 30 points a night on the best efficiency of his career, but now it was playoff time. In round 1, the Cavaliers would face the Bulls, with an emerging star in Derrick Rose and an emerging defensive anchor in Joakim Noah. And despite a great effort, the Bulls did not have enough to win the series, as they would lose in 5, and the Cavaliers would move on to play the Celtics in round 2. Now, this was not the same Celtics team they played in 2008. While for the most part, the players were still there, the stars had gotten a lot older and were objectively worse, winning 66 games in 2008 opposed to 50 in 2010. However, the story would remain the same. The Celtics would take the series, this time in 6, and contrary to popular belief, LeBron did not give up during Game 6. While he might not have been extremely efficient and turned the ball over a decent bit, nothing says giving up on your team quite like scoring 27 points, having 19 rebounds, 10 assists, and 3 steals and a block. On July 8th of 2010, LeBron James would go on an ESPN interview and have a very, very long broadcast in which he would produce probably the most famous quote of his entire career. That broadcast would officially end LeBron James' time in Cleveland, and although he would rejoin them in 2014, he would leave again in 2018. To this day, there are still Cavaliers fans angry at LeBron James for leaving in 2010.
This party is because of our organization, and we've supported him for 7 years now. And for him to go on there and drag us through the mud for 7 years and stab us in the heart, he deserves everything he gets. I hope he never wins anything in Miami.